welcome to Paul's Little Room. This is a very quick take, so kind of a mini review and initial thoughts of the Hifiman Edition XV. Now this is a full open back, full sized planar headphone, and this is the direct kind of successor, direct is it an upgrade question mark to the Edition XS. Fantastic headphone, the Edition XS. I had some issues with the headband. One issue was for a person with a small head like mine, not the very smallest, but quite a small head, all the way down. See, these are still slightly too large. Okay, if you have a very large head, fantastic. Also, problem with this headband is that movement, so they don't stay very put on your head if you have a very small head. If you have a larger head, then they probably have slightly better clamp force, well, a lot better clamp force. Anyway, wonderful headphone. Now before I launch into the Edition XV, my initial thoughts, I'm just going to very quickly talk about some of the reviews and unboxing videos I'm currently working on. So there is going to be quite a delay between reviews. It's usually, I try to get a major review out at least once every 3 weeks. Maybe an unboxing and a full review, but at the moment I'm kind of inundated with lots of products. So let's just very quickly talk about the products I'm currently reviewing. So there's a very impressive IEM by Linsol, and it's actually the 7HZ, so 7 Hertz Eternal IEM, and this is a I think it has a 14.5mm dynamic driver. They're very beautiful. So there's a full unboxing and a full review coming up with that. The wonderful Focal Batiste Bluetooth noise cancelling headphones. I've been quite impressed with these, though I do have some issues with them, and I'm going to be making a comparison with my favourite headphone of the moment. So I've got too many products down here. This is the Hifiman Ananda Bluetooth with R2R DAC. So this is the updated version of the Ananda Bluetooth with the improved R2R DAC and more stealth magnets inside. I think ergonomically it's an improvement as well. Allegedly, you've got a bit of extra swivel here, and you have an internal microphone. Anyway, so that's that one. I'm going to be comparing these two. Then a very long-term review. I've been using the Focal Clear MG Pros as my reference headphones. So I'm using these as my high-end reference headphone in order to compare, I would say compare bass impact. These have a very, very balanced amount of sub and mid bass, and they're just, I would say they are slightly warm signature, so they're not completely flat. They can get exciting if you add EQ, because they've got a they're quite easy to drive. But anyway, I'm using these as my reference headphone, but my apologies, I've not brought out the full review of these. And as my long term slightly more affordable reference headphone, I have the Sennheiser HD 660S with replacement fenestrated sheepskin pads. They actually slightly improve the sub bass. They don't change the treble, They slightly improve the sense of scale soundstage. Okay, so what have I missed? Now, the Hifimans, I'm going to be comparing the wonderful Edition XV to are, so I'm not going to be comparing them to the Ananda Bluetooth. I'm going to be comparing them to the Aria Stealth. So how do they compare to a high-end, headphone? Price wise, these are about 375 UK pounds. So whilst these, you can get them for 600 UK pounds or something like that, but they were 1,600 pounds when they came out. I'm going to be comparing them obviously to the Edition XS, the original one, and I'm going to be comparing them to the Edition XS mod. So this is actually the custom cans modded version of the Edition XS. So you buy the Edition XS and then you glue on this real leather comfort strap, which actually helps it fit on little heads like mine, so fits better. And also these super grills. Now, just a very quick heads up, this sounds actually very similar to so got everything all over the place. They sound very similar to the Aria Stealth. They don't have the soundstage, but they've got a very similar smooth signature. With the super grills, they do not actually sound a lot like the original headphone, the original Edition XS, from my observation. So I'm going to be talking about that. So let's very quickly talk about my initial thoughts of the packaging, the ergonomics, and what I've listened to so far with the Edition XV. So when you get the box, it's the current very typical recyclable cardboard box that even the high-end Hifimans currently come in. It's still very nicely presented. You've got a nice picture here. It says Neo Super Nano diaphragm and stealth magnets. Now, that won't mean that every one of the magnets is a stealth. Stealth magnets, as you might have seen in my previous videos, they are curved on one side to help with the smoothing of the airflow behind the diaphragm, so the back of the diaphragm, and it will actually smooth out some of the notes in the music, taking out some of the unwanted resonances. Not all headphones which don't have stealth magnets or the equivalent technology in other companies lack smoothness. This is simply something which Hifiman are utilizing in their own headphones to help smooth out their own sound signature. Now, when you open the box, you are presented by a simple box with I think a very functionally good cable. The cable is exactly the same that you get on all of the lower end Hifiman headphones. It's absolutely fine. It's nice and soft. It doesn't have any memory to it. Well, maybe a little bit, but not a lot at all. Lengthwise, it's short. So this is nearly exactly 5 foot long. Maybe I would have preferred a 2-meter cable. For me, 2 meters is perfect. But if you're working at a desk, it's absolutely fine. And so this is just the standard Hifiman cable, and when you open the box a bit further, you'll notice that there's the now classic foam headphone stand, which is very nice. That comes with most of the latest Hifiman headphones. I think they debuted that with the stealth revision of the Sundara. So let's look at the headphones themselves. Now, as with the original Edition XS and the Aria, I would describe the plug connection, the female end, it's kind of fluted. So this is very nice. It's slightly angled, so when you put the plug in, when you put the 3.5mm connector in, it just goes in relatively nice and securely, but you're not having to position at an angle directly at 50 degrees to get the cable in. It just, you can put it at a slight angle and it leads you in. See? So it's fluted. I think that's a nice feature, and also it prevents you scratching the headphone, because this is actually painted plastic. Now, looking at the head strap, if you look at the original Edition XS, so I've got too many headphones on. So I was not keen on this headband. There's a relatively okay amount of padding, and it's exactly the same headband as you get with the Deva Pro and the non-Bluetooth Deva. With the Deva it worked better because you've got smaller round pads, you get a tighter fit. Bluetooth, for some reason that actually is easier to fit on smaller heads like mine. Slightly better clamp force, low but better clamp force. So that works, but on a very large headphone with these enormous cups, it wasn't quite working for me. And because of the depth of the pad and of the opening, I found a lot of movement. Sound wise, these are very nice. They have a warm signature. They're quite punchy. There's a very slight sub bass roll off, but there's a good amount of mid bass information. Nice amount of treble. Vocals are relatively flat. They're not dipped like with the Aria Stealth. So the Aria Stealth, the vocals take just slight backseat, and also the vocals are a bit dry. I would say that the vocals are less dry on the Edition XS. So if you like good vocals but not a vocal heavy headphone, this is a good one. Soundstage wise, these have a nice sound stage, a good amount of headspace, good amount of room, but they're not excessive. They're not unnaturally big. The Aria Stealth, it's a huge soundscape, and sometimes intimate recordings can sound a little bit artificial in the placement, the distance between the vocals. It's almost like you're actually sat in the on the stage with the vocalist and the instruments rather than being in the audience. So now back to the lovely new Edition XV. Now there's an instant upgrade to the headphone. For a start, the band is lighter. This is a composite band. Now I'm not sure what materials they are. This is definitely a strip of metal on here. It has a very nice feel to it, kind of a, well, it's like a matte metallic aluminium finish. There's a rubberized section in the middle here, and I think that is actually, yes, there you can see that is for flexing. And then there's rigid plastic either side here. Now, being composite, I'm guessing that there's a metal structure inside, because this comfort strap, which is actually very nice, it's like a it's almost like a very fine suede, perforated. It's got very small connections, so I can just see plastic. It's too small connections, too small kind of knobs that the screw is attached to. So I'm hoping there aren't going to be any durability issues in the future as I carry on testing these out. And probably in about 3 weeks' time, I'll do a longer term review and more in-depth review of these headphones. But for now, this is a very light headphone. As soon as you put these on, you'll notice there's weight in the headphone, but it's in the cups. Okay, this comfort strap is doing a very good job of distributing the weight. Very good job. It's it's a wide strap, so it really spreads the weight, just like the 1000 so HE1000 headphones have a similar strap, and the Sasvara have a similar strap as well. It's very, very comfortable. It spreads the weight of the headphone really well. And so this is much light up here, and as a result, what is happening, also very slightly more clamp force, better fit on my small head. I've got this all the way down. If you adjust it, it adjusts in exactly the same way to the Sundara, to the Ananda, no, Ananda? No, it's the same way as the this version of the Ananda. Yes, and the Ananda Nano adjusts in the same way. So you've got these relatively large increments. Now this one is for me, it actually feels slightly smoother. I think it's possible they might have improved the internal materials that they're using to adjust it, because when you look at the original Edition XS, each model, each headphone, I've bought 3, well actually I've been given a few, and I bought some Edition XS headphones to compare. Each one is different. So this one is the latest one, and it feels like good reassuring clicks, whilst my earlier version, which I attached the Hifiman mod kit to, this felt very vague out of the box. I bought these new, but this actually, if you just shake it, it's enough to bring that out, unfortunately. So it looks like, I think it's possible that they've addressed that in the later models. So probably just a different material they're using inside here. So as I said, it's not too hard, it's not too soft, it's just right. And you've got a bit of swivel here, not a lot of swivel. There's less swivel than with the Ananda Bluetooth, so slightly more there, but also you've got a bit of pivot here. So not an enormous amount of movement there, but it's probably going to be enough to angle it on your jawline. These arms aren't identical to the original Edition XS. Notice that on the original circuit, losing where I'm putting things, too many things, you'll notice that these have a bent out yoke like this, and this is much more subtle. It just goes straight down here and then gentle curve to the side. So I think what they're doing there is they're simplifying the machining. They're probably improving the how hard wearing these are, maybe, but definitely it's more simple in machining, and it's a very elegant look. The whole look of this headphone is very elegant. So apart from that top part and the adjustments, you've got the same pads. These pads, they feel the same density, the same comfort as the original Edition XS. They're larger at the back of the head than at the front to angle the driver slightly, which helps improve the sense of soundstage. Not a lot, however, because these are very large planar magnetic headphones, you're going to get a better representation of. You're tilting quite a large amount of diaphragm, you will notice the improvements. Now the grille does reminds me a little bit of the Deva Pro. So if you look at the Deva Pro again, you've got a silver plastic grille. Actually, maybe it's not plastic. It feels plastic, but I think it might be spray painted metal. Okay, because it's the same material that you had on the HE560 SE. Amazing headphone. Sad I got rid of that. That had a black version of this grille. Now, this is sealed in here. There's no bezel, or there's nothing to pull off at the front, just like with the actually, yeah, I think with the original, the Aria and the original Edition XS, in order to remove this grill, you actually have to unscrew, take the pad off, unscrew the internal, and then push out the driver with the grill in order to remove it. And this is no exception. But this looks like it might be laser cut stainless steel, which they've powder coated. So you think, well, is that plastic? It sounds like it might be plastic, but it can't be from a manufacturing point of view, because I'm a sculptor historically. I love saying that, historically, and I'm developing my own headphones. I know a lot about material processes. You can't really get fine details like that in plastic without it being very vulnerable to breaking. So you press that. It's just this between the driver and the outside. If you look very closely, can you see? You can see all the way through to the drivers. There's no material between this grill and the driver. If you look on the original Edition XS, whoops, wrong one. There's a thin piece of material. This is this grill is very large gaps, so they needed that material in there. And the same with the RS Stealth. There you go. See, they needed that material. It will change the characteristics of the sound slightly, and the simple mod a lot of people make on these Hifimans is to remove that cloth material. So this has no cloth material, almost unveiled. I've tried some of the new unveiled Hifiman headphones I had to go at listening to them at the Can Jam UK, which was a very exciting show. Have a look down my videos. I did a quick video about that trip. Okay, so back to the girls now. So that on this side you've got just that. On the inside, this is the most transparent Hifiman I have seen, apart from on the Susvara. So the Susvara, you can really see everything in there. This does actually have a very fine metal mesh, but it's so fine you can see straight through to those beautiful magnets. So the whole thing, it's very airy in appearance. It's rather beautiful. I think this is an improvement over the original. I've lost it again. Oh well, I promised myself I wouldn't actually do any editing for this one. So yes, so you can see there's just a cloth in here, and it's more elegant. This is heavier, mostly because of this material. This is lighter, and there you go. So this is a very quick take. I'm just going to very quickly talk about the sound, and then in the next full review I'm going to actually show some measurements I've made on my mini DSP listening device. So I'm going to show some graphs and some comparisons between these and all of the other Hifiman large cup headphones that I've got. Okay, so the important thing is you're thinking, is this an upgrade over the original Edition XS? Well, the more recent Edition XS with the stealth magnets. I would say yes, but it's different. If you like a lot of treble information, I would say there's slightly more upper treble information in the original Edition XS. In these headphones, what they've done is they've followed a very, very similar curve. Even with all of these changes, they've managed to make it sound very similar, but they've upped the sub bass, not the mid bass, the sub bass. So there's more of a natural rumble. With the original Edition XS, I like to EQ them so that there's a bit more of that oomph. These, there's less of a necessity to do that. They have more of a body to them and more of a rumble. The mids and the mids and the lower treble, I would say they sound very similar. However, I would say these bring the vocals just very, very slightly forward, just a tiny amount, I would say, in the lower vocal range. So if you have rich male vocals, the vocalist will sound a little tiny bit further forward, but only a tiny bit. It's very subtle. And then you've got just as much information, lovely zing, lovely freshness to the sound in the lower treble. Female voices sound fantastic on these headphones because you've got that slight additional bass, but just very tasteful, a little bit extra bass. It really does add, I would say, it adds richness to female vocals, but also what you're getting is slightly, and I say slightly, less of the flat postage stamp vocal effect you get with a lot of planars. So a lot of large planar drivers, they present the vocal here, and it's like the vocal is flat in front of you, and then you've got the information from the instruments coming out around the sides. These do help spread the vocals round just a tiny bit, tiny bit. I'm talking subtleties here, just a tiny bit more information around the edges with the vocals. And then finally, the upper treble, so cymbal clashes, sharp sounds, it's tamed down on these. Now, I will talk about this. I know this is it's quite a long one for initial thoughts, but I've been quite excited. I've listened to these quite a lot in the last few days since I got them, and so yeah, so I've been very excited to listen to these Vakes. It's very I'm not disappointed. Some people who like lots of fast and hard information, lots of kind of micro detail everywhere, they might be a little bit disappointed that these are slightly pulled back, slightly, they're slightly brought back. I would say this is slightly more of a popular tuning, so a little bit more in line with more modern pop music and modern rock music. Everything is, I would say, slightly more fun. They're a lot more fun than the Aria Stealth, but you've got a smaller sound stage, you've got less information, good information, but less information. And they're just a really good headphone for the price. Excellent build quality. For a headphone under £500, very competitive. This is going to be very hard to beat, and you get a lot more for your money than with the original Edition XS. You've got the ergonomics are better, you've got that more body in the sound, and there you go. So that's my initial take. So it was a bit long. I thought, let's not script this, let's just go for it. I'm not going to mention the specific music I've been listening to with these. There's going to be a more in-depth review with, as I say, with the frequency graph information for you to see coming soon. So my apologies, it's taking a long time to do all my different reviews. Did I mention I'm doing that? Yes, there's the Eternals, the Anandas, the Batiste, the Clear MG Pro. Oh, I forgot. I'm also reviewing the Sennheiser HD 490 Pro. And there's one more. I'm also the Beyerdynamic Custom 1 Pro. I'm going to be reviewing those too, so oh my goodness, I'm busy. So that's it for now. I look forward to showing all of that to you. Goodbye.